Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho.
Coming up, he's been at the helm of Idaho's largest public university for almost a decade. A conversation with Boise State President Bob Kustra about the challenges and rewards of higher education in the 21st century. That's Dialogue next. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Marcia Franklin. When Bob Kustra arrived at Boise State University in 2003 as its sixth president, it was with an ambitious agenda to boost the school's resources, output, and reputation. Nearly 10 years later, what's been achieved and what challenges still remain? Joining me to talk about higher education at Boise State and beyond is Bob Kustra. Welcome to you.
Thanks, Marcia. Nice to be here.
Now, Dr. Kustra, who has a PhD in political science, came to Boise State from the Midwestern Higher Education Commission, where he was president. He also served as president of Eastern Kentucky University. Now, before academia came politics, although I'm sure that there's some politics still in your life. President Kustra served 2 terms as the lieutenant governor of Illinois and 10 years in the Illinois legislature. He now oversees an institution with more than 20,000 students and 2,400 staff, including more than 670 instructors. The annual budget of Boise State University is nearly $405 million. That's $180 million more than when President Kustra arrived. 10 years, does it seem like almost 10 years?
No, it really doesn't. I remember when I hit the 5-year mark, the press reminded me that when I came, I said I'd stay only 5 years. And they wanted to know what I was going to do next. I said, well, I didn't really think about that. I didn't know it was going to go this fast. So here it is.
You must really
at 10.
like it.
I really do like it. It's the best job I've ever had of anything I've ever done.
Well, I mentioned that budget number right off the top. Fiscal year 2002, $223.9 million when you arrived. Fiscal year 2013, $404.9 million. That's a huge difference, and we know it's not coming from general fund support, i.e. the state, because that funding has been pretty static. In 2002, you got around $74 million, and in 2013 from the state, if we can put that up, the general fund support, $74.5 million. So it's not coming from the state support.
Especially when you look at the number of students we're serving now as opposed to what we were serving 10 years ago. Clearly the increased funding is coming from tuition. It's coming from research dollars and other areas. But tuition and research makes up most of it.
But what would you say to the state? Should it give you more money?
Oh, there's no question. I think all of my colleagues in higher education, the presidents of Idaho's public colleges and universities, would be able to make a strong case, and we have made a strong case, for the fact that if we're going to value higher education as a public good in this country and in this state, then we can't allow higher education to slip to the very last priority every state budget session. And that's really what's happened here in Idaho. In fairness, it's happened in about 49 other states as well, but that doesn't make it right.
You mentioned the federal support as one of the areas that contribute to that growth. We've got some figures on that. Again, very pretty stunning figures. Fiscal year 2002, $44.1 million. Fiscal year 2013, $117.7 million in federal grants and contracts, a lot of them for, as we know, research into the sciences.
Right.
Do you think that this is sustainable, what with the stimulus going away and fiscal issues on the federal level, this amount of federal money coming in?
That's a very good question, and I don't think we have a complete answer to that. I think it's sustainable for us because we're still growing our graduate programming. We're attracting and recruiting new faculty. Every new faculty member that comes in brings his or her research agenda, which is usually tied to a National Science Foundation grant or a National Institute of Health grant. So we're going to be okay because we're in a growing mode. But some of the universities that are more traditional and can't justify any growth in the numbers of faculty, they may well see some of their grants drop off because we've been told that when they start cutting out there in Washington to avoid the fiscal cliff, the NSF and the National Institute of Health could take a hit as well.
Now, you have a firm in D.C. that helps keep
We
your
do.
profile up
Right.
in terms of that, right?
Yes, we do. Yes, and it's been very helpful. I mean, there's no question that our principal investigators, and the principal investigator is nothing more than the lead faculty member on a grant. This firm puts those principal investigators in touch with the various agencies where they could likely get the funding to do what they want to do in pursuing their research.
You have made research, more PhD programs, more graduate level programs, a centerpiece, a hallmark of your tenure, Metropolitan Research Institution of Distinction. Are you ever concerned about what some might call the monetization of education? In other words, certain things get more money than others. It's clear right now. Engineering, the sciences, not so much the humanities. Does that worry you?
Well, it does, because there's no doubt that when you go to the National Science Foundation, you're not going to get a lot of money for the humanities. So what we have to do when it comes to the arts and the humanities is depend on private giving. And if you take a look at before when we were talking about where do you get your money at Boise State, we did a campaign for 5 years and came up with $186 million.
But only $2 million, as I recall, was in the social sciences, very low.
That's right. It is definitely lower than, say, the College of Business. The College of Business building was built with that campaign. So there's no doubt that it's tougher to get money for the arts and humanities, but money for the arts and humanities is out there. It's just going to come more likely from private donors, private giving, foundations. We have just employed a new vice president for university advancement who has as one of her top priorities working with our corporate and foundations director to find the foundations who are interested in contributing to universities when it comes to the arts and humanities. As you know, Marcia, I have the Arts and Humanities Institute as one of my prime objectives of my presidency, and we have some of the programming in place for that institute, but we really don't have the facility we need to do it justice, and that is one of my next steps in this job.
Along the lines of this issue of needing more money, a lot of your buildings are endowed. I know it's a priority for you to get more professorships and chairs endowed. Again, related to my previous question, what's the tipping point where the money that comes in is so tied to an industry or a person or a point of view that a professor or a student doesn't feel that they could do research that could potentially be critical of that entity? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're looking for money any place you can, of course.
Right.
So how do you factor that in?
Well, this is an issue that's been raised across the country in higher education, and it's probably a much more difficult issue for the larger public research universities in America. Their faculties over the years have complained about this many times over. The fact is, at Boise State, we've really never been in a position where we've had to worry about a company coming in, giving us money, and then saying at the same time, now look, you have to lay off any criticism of what we do. Occasionally, our faculty will, and that's their right, make comments, publish research papers, whatever they want to do that's critical of American industry.
So your business building, which is endowed, or paid
Exactly.
for with money from Micron.
Micron, right, sure.
So if a professor wanted to look at that particular industry,
that's called academic freedom, and we never step in the way of a professor's freedom to publish what he or she thinks is appropriate. And we've never really, since I've been here anyway, had a problem with that.
Talk to me a little bit about your emphasis on getting more PhD programs, becoming a research institution of distinction, and then also all the other people who are going through getting a general education and the graduation rate. Because at the same time that you're bringing in more research and higher end students and professors, the dial has not moved all that much on the graduation rate at Boise State University. I believe the 4-year rate is 8%. The 6-year rate, which is used more often, is about 28%. So about a third of the people who are coming in a particular class 6 years later are graduating. Mm-hmm. I know that number has been of concern to you.
Right, right.
Why is it not moving?
Yeah, well, again, the cohort is what we follow.
Just I would say we're seeing student enrollment right here, but we're talking right now about graduation rates.
Yeah, and the cohort is what we follow, and of course the cohort you have to look at 6 years out. So we're going back a good number of years to see what it was all about. For one thing, we had a community college embedded within Boise State for years. Just recently, the College of Western Idaho was created. So those students who went into Boise State as first-year full-time students and then left, they weren't counted. In fact, that's the biggest problem about that statistic, that metric, is that it leaves out so many students. Let's say a student transfers into Boise State. We had over 1,000 students transfer into Boise State this fall. They're not going to be counted. When they graduate, they will not be counted in the graduation rate because it has to be that original cohort of first-year full-time students. You miss a lot of students that way. So nationally, there's a great argument going on now with the IPEDS, the federal agency that keeps track of these numbers. And the argument is that you have to find a better way of tracking students to give universities credit for students. Again, those community college students that for so many years we processed and left after 2 years, that was never counted as a student that graduated.
But even if those students were counted, the number, I'm guessing for you as an administrator, is still low. What's going on that our graduation rates are so low, particularly in metropolitan institutions, but also we've got this goal coming up here, but the state board has endorsed, of 60% of Idahoans 25 to 34 years old by 2020 should have some sort of degree.
Right. Yeah, and by the way, Boise State University is the only university that's ahead of its annual metric in terms of achieving that goal by 2020. So we will have no problem reaching that goal. Some of our sister institutions are still struggling to meet that number. But what's going on, to answer your question, is really a cultural issue for metropolitan universities. Obviously, people who come to metropolitan universities are working full-time more often than they are in small, rural, residential colleges. You go off to college at a small, rural, residential school, there's not much to do but go to school for 4 years and move on. But if you're in Boise, and there's countless people listening to this or watching this program who can vouch for this, you can come in, take a course once a semester, take maybe 2 the next semester, and over 7 or 8 years graduate. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know in Boise who managed to get their way through Boise State in that fashion. And especially in this era with students who don't have the pressure I had when I went to school. I mean, if I had gone home to my parents after 4 years and said, hey, Mom and Dad, it's going to take an extra semester, they'd have kicked me out of the house. They certainly weren't going to pay for it, I'll guarantee you that. Now, students will come to us, and they've already cut this deal with their parents, like, well, you know, Mom and Dad, it might take 5, it might take 6. In fact, our California kids who are coming to us now, they're being told in the Cal State system that it's going to take, I think it's 5.5 years to get out of the California state system. So they come to us because we have a Finish in 4 program where if they sign up and say they want to get out in 4 years, we'll get them out in 4 years.
Because you've got a bottleneck. I have talked to a number of people who say, I wish I could have graduated sooner, but I couldn't get this class for literally like a year plus.
Right, right.
You know, you haven't added all that many professors in line with as many students as you have, I'm sure because of funding issues.
That's where the funding issue does come in, right?
So, you know, people aren't being able to get through in time.
Yeah. And by the way, the bottleneck issue is one that isn't as serious today as it was last year, and it's not as serious last year as it was the year before. Our biggest bottleneck problem was probably around 2009 and 10, and then we started dealing with it, hiring more adjunct faculty, hiring more full-time lecturers. The full-time lecturer position at Boise State is one of the newer inventions, and it's somebody who teaches 12 hours.
They're adjunct, basically.
They are adjunct, but they're full-time and they get benefits.
Do they?
They do, and that's a big deal. I mean, for a long time, higher ed was criticized as using people and not giving them any benefits. We do that now, and that's the reason why some of those bottleneck courses are now being addressed. Online education is going to be the other answer to bottleneck education.
Thank you for segueing here. We see a person in front of a whiteboard, but this new system of MOOCs, massive open online courses. We see Coursera coming out of Stanford, edX coming out of Harvard, MIT, Wellesley just signed up this week.
Yeah.
You know, you've written a couple of different things on this, and I'm trying to get a bead on where you do fall, because in one of your comments you said, we've got to fight fire with fire and come up with a way that we can get some of our courses online. And then I saw something else where you said, look, especially mid-tier universities, we need to concentrate on some other things. We can encourage our students to sign up for these, but we can't spend a lot of resource on it. So where do you come down? Will Boise State, join one of these?
Well, one of the things that I think we need to do, and I think Colorado State University just figured out a way to do this, we have to take a look at these MOOCs. And if they're out there and they're real and we can direct our students to them, why not tell a student, hey, there's an intro class in computer science.
And give them a credit for it?
Give them a credit for it. Absolutely. That's what Colorado State just figured out a few weeks ago. And I think that's a brilliant idea. Why should we duplicate what a student can get online when in fact we can cover it for them and give them credit? Now we'll have to make sure that they jump through the right hoops, that there's some kind of a standardized testing procedure so we can verify that they really took what they said they took, or the university, wherever, Stanford, whatever it is, verifies it. But I like this idea of using some of these MOOCs to benefit our students as they move through the pipeline.
On the same issue of online education, we saw a big dust-up at the elections over the so-called Luna laws, one of which required some online courses. As both an administrator, a higher ed administrator, and somebody who's been in public office as you were you glad to see those defeated at the polls? Was it going to affect your?
It's not going to affect what we do. I mean, we absolutely.
But as an education administrator, what did you think of them?
Well, I think it's unfortunate if anyone in the state of Idaho or beyond develops the attitude that, well, we really don't think technology has a role in education. It does. It's working right now in the state of Idaho. It's working in 49 other states, and it works at Boise State. 25% of our students are taking at least one online course. That's going to increase over the coming years as we find more and more ways to develop those introductory courses. The introductory courses are very different from those upper division courses where you want the contact with the faculty member, where you want the mentoring, where you want the opportunity to engage in seminar-like thinking and decision making. In the introductory courses, it's so easy to do that in some mass fashion. And by the way, the University of Idaho years ago was given a grant by the Pew Charitable Trust Foundation to do just this, and they're still operating one of their basic math courses in some kind of a large room where everybody has a computer, and they're taking their courses online with some graduate assistants around the room.
So did you take a position on those laws?
No, I did not. Okay. I did not. That's a matter for K-12. The presidents, we talked about it, and we all decided that it's very difficult. We all have schools of education. So we have schools of education who produce teachers. We believe in our teachers. The last thing we would want to do is get in the middle of an intramural fight between school boards and teachers and Superintendent Luna and whatever. That did not have a very good future for any of our universities, so we stayed out of it. But all of us in higher education in Idaho remain committed to using technology in the classroom.
I would be remiss and would get many phone calls if I did not ask you about sports at your institution. You've made the decision to move to the Big East. Some are deriding it as the Big Least because some teams have pulled out. Going to reconsider?
Not yet. We still hope that it's going to stabilize. We've already invited Tulane and East Carolina University into the conference. It's still a strong conference. We'll be playing Louisville at home here in Boise next year. Now, again, Louisville is one of the schools that just recently jumped. But if you take a look at that conference, University of Cincinnati is in that conference. Memphis is in that conference. Temple is in that conference. There's some very strong affiliations, and not just on the athletic side. Academically, we're able to join the National Society of Inventors, which is on the campus of the University of South Florida, another one of the Big East schools. So there's an academic connection and a research connection to this conference that is very important. If you look at the basketball schools, those are some really fine academic institutions.
But your basketball team, at least for now, is going to have to go down.
It's going to go to the Big West.
As a result of this move. So there are, anytime you press on one side of the balloon, another comes out.
That's correct.
Are you concerned about the amount of travel that will have to happen on the fan side or the athlete side? I know when I first heard this, I was like, East, wait a minute.
Right.
We're in the West. Is my geography wrong?
Yeah. Well, we certainly hope our fans will follow the team. We're not worried about the student athletes because, frankly, if you're talking football, they're going to get on a chartered jet and they're going to find their way to the football field they're competing on within a matter of hours. If I was dealing with the Olympic sports, I would not allow us. I mean, we took that off the table immediately. There's no way we'd send our volleyball players across the country through 2 or 3 airports to play in the Big East. And that's the big criticism I have of a school like Rutgers, for example, which just decided to go to the Big Ten. And they're in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And it's one thing to do it in football, where it's relatively easy to get back to all those campuses in the Midwest in rural locations. Now try to do that if you're a volleyball player. Well, any of the Olympic sports, you're going to be going through 2 or 3 airports, and I don't think that's fair to the students. I don't think that's what they signed up for, and it's going to hurt their academics as well.
I know I was kidding with you ahead of time that before this interview I was checking, like every couple hours, typing in Chris Peterson.
Right.
Make sure there wasn't any new news there. I mean, just a couple hours ago it was, the Badgers in Wisconsin may talk with him. A couple days ago it was Arkansas. What's the latest? Is your highest paid staffer and one with the reputational currency, as you like to put it. Any plans on leaving?
Right. Well, I can never speak for Chris up to the moment, but I do have a very strong friendship with Chris Peterson. We talk regularly. I know Chris loves Boise State. He loves living in Idaho. Every year people come after him like this. I'm not living in any dread fear that as of this moment he's looking at something else. I think he's pleased. He's watching a new football complex rise up at the north end of the stadium, which was built for him right about the time he was thinking about going to Stanford. So it's going to be a great recruiting tool for him. And as he continues to compete with the Pac-12 for football players, this facility is going to do him very, very well.
Do you ever feel that there can be too much emphasis on sports, or what's been called kind of the distracted university by somebody?
Well, it may be that way for large public research universities who may get it out of whack every now and then. For a school like Boise State that's trying to grow, I don't think there's any question that we've been able to use football as a vehicle to get the attention of people so we can actually talk about funding for the academic side of the equation. When Frank DeFord from Sports Illustrated came here, he said, there was another school that tried to pull off what you pulled off. It was called Notre Dame. Knute Rockne was the coach that did it. Today, Notre Dame is known as a great academic university. So the fact is, I think you can use football in a positive fashion. Given the incredible attention it gets, it allows you to grow other parts of the university.
Can it make so many people want to come here, though, that the university becomes flooded with new applicants, but not enough teachers, not enough courses to keep up with the popularity that was ginned up by the sports?
Well, we love when you have a standing room only, or a standing line for people coming into the university. That's a good thing. We won't take any more than we can afford to educate in any one year. But frankly, when you look at the number of students who are now interested in Boise State from out of state, our first year class, 38% are coming from out of state. That's a pretty good sign that the value of the Boise State degree has risen substantially. And as long as
you get out-of-state tuition from those people.
We get double the tuition. That's the new tuition model. The University of Oregon, 45% of their students come from outside the state of Oregon.
Right.
They're building their entire business model. Only 4% of their budget comes from the state.
And I think we have the tuition graphic. It's something like $11,000 for out of state, and
Right.
$5,000 some
About twice.
for an in-state student. The salaries for the people who are involved in sports, the money that you bring in from sports is very large. When you get a television contract, as you're looking forward to with the Big East, how much of that money that you derive from sports then gets put back into academia?
Well, for starters, if you look at the Stickle Sky Center, which was built a few years ago, we take $600,000, now $800,000 out of that revenue annually and put it into an academic fund to build a new academic building. Now, it'll still be a few years before we get enough money to do that, but my point is that that Stickle Sky Center that everybody thinks is such a great thing for football is delivering $600,000, now $800,000 a year to an academic fund to build a building. When it comes to the media, the media money, some of that money finds its way back into the overall university. A good portion of it, of course, will go to keep the athletic program funded independently of the rest of the university. We use very little funding from the university for athletics. Athletics really has its own budget. Their job is to raise that budget, and by the way, that budget is about half the size of the average athletic budget you'll find in the top 25 football teams in the nation.
As we wrap up, and we have only 2 or 3 minutes left, I want to ask you, going forward, what's your priority in the legislative session coming up?
The biggest priority we have is helping the legislature understand that we are no longer the state-supported university we used to be. When we were the state-supported university, there were lots of rules and regulations coming from state government. We were an appendage of state government. We have to help the legislature understand that we now need the freedom and the flexibility to build a completely different business model, to do things differently.
Could it be charging per credit
hour. It could be getting independence from purchasing, independence from the Department of Public Works. There are so many rules and regulations that slow down what we can do in public universities when in fact we're less than 1/4 of a public university today. So we'll still be looking for our $73.5 million or whatever Boise State took away last year, and we hope we'll get a little bit of an increase. But just as importantly, if they give us the flexibility, we'll be able to be a bigger and better university down into the future.
And what about you? You're looking at 10 years in July of being here. You've accomplished quite a bit, but you have other things I'm sure that you'd like to do with your life. Are you looking at taking some, I know you'll never completely retire, but retiring from your current position?
Well, you know, I was visiting with the president of Concordia the other day. He was over here to visit his law school. And on the way out, I said, so how long have you been doing this? He said, 30 years. I said, that must be an all-time record. So, Marcia, I'm only 1/3 of the way there. What can I tell you?
You're not answering the question.
I love the job.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to stay here forever, of course. But I really like what I'm doing. And I know the day will come when I'll wake up and think, I need to be in a boat fishing.
Weren't you writing something? Are you doing some writing?
I am doing some writing, and of course the radio show is a major preoccupation of mine, and I'd like to take that into the future beyond my presidency. But I'm also interested in doing some consulting and helping governing boards get better at what they have to do in figuring out universities. So I have an active agenda, but my first and most important priority is to move this university forward and to live in this beautiful state. And I get to do both of those things. That's a real blessing, and as I said, the best job of my life.
Well, thank you very much. You've been listening to President Bob Kuster of Boise State University, who has agreed to stay a little bit after this program, and we'll tape a web extra where we go in a little bit more depth about some of these extremely important issues. Thank you very much, President Kuster, and thank you for tuning in to this edition of Dialogue. I'm Marcia Franklin.
Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho. Check out our website, become a friend on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter.